Welcome into a very, very special episode of the Huskers Radio Network podcast. I'm Jessica Coody, and so excited for today's interview or interviewees, because very rarely do you get the opportunity to have a brother-sister combo, both Huskers. We welcome in Rebekah and Josiah Allick. Thank you both for being here. I know you guys are both pretty shy, so we'll get you warmed up. But no, Josiah is 3 years older than Becca. So when you guys were 10 and 13, what would you have said if someone would have told you you'd be sitting here doing a podcast together and getting filmed for a documentary on the Big Ten Network?
Go ahead.
Well, I definitely would have been overjoyed that I made it to a Big Ten school. Because, I mean, that was my goal really from the get-go, was just, being able to play at the highest level. And so for where I would have been at 13, to figure out how that line would have gone with that kind of trajectory would have been pretty relieving, definitely pretty motivating, I think.
What would you have said, doing it together like this?
Being here with Josiah.
Would you have believed it?
Maybe. I don't know.
Honestly, at 13, I probably would have asked to do it by myself.
Yeah.
It definitely would.
Because I would have been 10. Can you imagine how terrible
that
would have been?
Because you guys
Rebekah,
didn't get along all the time, right?
Mm-mm.
Growing up? What was the relationship like when you guys were growing up? Becca's looking at Josiah.
I think I know exactly how it was. I'm curious what his take, because we've been given all these really cool opportunities for interviews and stuff, but I know where we stand, but I'm curious what he's had to say.
Well, I definitely would have said conflicted.
He's being nice.
Yeah. No, I mean, the level of patience and obviously maturity just wasn't there. For me, I'm not thinking about it as in this is, my sister, lifelong friend, anything like that. I'm just thinking this is the little girl that be annoying the hell out of me on a regular basis, taking all my stuff, trying to bother me.
What did I take? I took
all
rocks.
my clothes. All my clothes.
I never took your clothes.
Not at 13. Once I got to high school.
Yeah, because then it became about the grind.
I had to put the sign up on my door.
Huh?
Remember the sign I put on my door to tell you to stay out of my stuff?
Because I wanted his sweatpants.
No, I wanted everything.
What did I will die on this hill. I strongly believe I only wanted your sweatpants.
No.
Shirts,
shorts, anything. All my drawers, I would come back, I'd look for a certain shirt, and I'd be what could happen? Where could this possibly be? Because I'm in the basement. It's not there's a lot of foot traffic down there.
Oh, yeah.
And so, the only way you end up in my room is by deliberately making your way to my room.
I can argue that Mom used to mix up the laundry. Remember? Because everyone would try and do the laundry at once, and there was a queue. On Spotify, how there's a queue with music? That was the setup with our laundry room, because there was 6 kids in this house, so it was first come, first serve. Sometimes people would swap other people in the line, and Mom would do the laundry most of the time because we hadn't figured out how to do it ourselves yet. And so I do think this happened with some of Caleb's clothes too. My mom, she would try and do 2 loads at once. She's like, oh, this one's not big enough, I'm just gonna throw in so-and-so's. And then I would end up with boxers and guy socks in my mix. I was like, these are actually really comfortable for training. I'm just gonna keep it, because obviously this was meant to find me. So I wasn't gonna fight it.
We're already seeing the competitiveness, you guys, arguing over the stance here. But there's no doubt, watching both of you play, that you have that fire, that passion. How much growing up did that play into how you became as athletes now today, being one of 6? Becca?
Okay. It's just survival of the fittest. It's if you're gonna eat, you gotta fight to eat. That's just how it was at the dinner table, especially when it was fried chicken. Fried chicken night was terrible because the boys always wanted the drumsticks and the breasts, and then my mom used to have this rule where if you get a breast, you have to get a wing, because the wings sucked and they didn't have as many meat. And so it was and then Caleb, he's the youngest, he used to be so hard, just difficult, I'll just put it that way, where he would try and get everything. He wanted everything. And so sometimes you just have to walk away and not fight it, because it's not even worth it. So I think competitiveness today is sometimes you learn when to stay quiet and just let the work speak for itself, because sometimes you're not going to get what you want. Not even get the piece of chicken.
Yeah, we just grew up in it was just a competitive household in general. Everybody played sports. Whether you knew what sport you enjoyed the most, you were going to try all of them at least once just to see what stuck. And so that was just kind of always a constant part of our lives was, you know, one of the things the only like real like bonding we did was usually through sports, trying to play some kind of game or whatever it may be. And at least for me, I was a terrible loser. I was that immature little kid that would throw the game board when he realized winning was out of reach. And I'm proud to say I've made some growth in that area and can now accept defeat a little bit better. But I mean, yeah, you know, like we have, you know, there's 6 of us total, and oldest to youngest is like an 8-year difference. So it's not like, you know, some people where, you know, they have like siblings that are, you know, 5 or 10 years older than them. And, you know, it's almost like unfair to compete with them because it's like, obviously, you know, if you're 18 and your sibling's 9, probably going to win everything, you know. But with us, it was kind of like just within reach, especially with me and her, to where we're kind of like right in that middle where we're kind of in range with everybody to where everyone's free game in some degree or another. And so even though we didn't like get along well, there was always kind of that mutual competition playing field in place. And part of that was, you know, you never want to ask your competitors for help. And so that usually leaves you to be quite resourceful in trying to figure out how to do things by yourself. And so then there's always that extra sense of pride of once you are able to do it, it's a little bit of like yeah, F you, I was able to do this by myself. Like I didn't need your help. You know, it's a little more gratifying when you can kind of get it done by your own without needing any help.
I will add, he's completely right about this because he almost always figured it out by himself. And I didn't. So when we would go to church together as a family and we would misbehave, my mom would make us come back and write on like a lined piece of paper like that, front and back sometimes, I will behave in church. I will behave in church. And you're supposed to write, I will behave in church, period. Restart, okay? He used to go, I, will.
Yeah.
And I was like,
really learning lessons
that's a
there.
cheat code. I was like, he figured it out. And so I will say, like, even as a 20-year-old woman standing here today, like, I have constantly kind of been looking over his shoulder trying to see what he's doing because he figured it out on his own.
What would be each of your perspective of kind of each other's athletic career growing up? I'd be interested to hear kind of what it was like for you to follow his career and what it was like for you to follow her career. Josiah, you want to start on this one?
Well, from my perspective, I mean, it was kind of amazing just because, you know, for her, she had such a high work ethic at such a young age that I was kind of jealous. Because for me, like, it was like I always loved sports. Like, I loved competing, I loved doing all that, but I didn't really understand the kind of actual time and energy you had to invest to really separate yourself. Like, every time I played, like, you know, I gave it everything I had. But, you know, when I wasn't able to, you know, find anybody to, you know, play pickup with or, you know, 21 or play football or whatever it may be, you know, I just found other things to keep myself busy, whether that was, you know, playing video games or just going and hanging out with friends or whatever. And it wasn't until I really got into high school that I really started working overtime and kind of realized, you know, because even though I wasn't super athletically gifted, like growing up, like I was definitely a late bloomer, and I was young for my grade. So like once I got to high school, I kind of got to see like, oh, okay, like there's some pretty significant levels to to this thing, and you know, it's not the same as just, you know, being the best player at your middle school. It's like now this opens up a whole new world. And then after really not having any success my freshman year, and thinking, all right, you know, by next year it'll get turned around. And then like I was like, all right, well now I'm really not going anywhere. And then I kind of like went all in, you know, gave it everything I had, and then tried to like almost work from behind. But with her, you know, I remember her and her sister really just started, or her and I don't know.
I noticed that. I was like, what?
Yeah, I was speaking from like second person here. But, yeah, you know, they started like, you know, playing club and really training even in middle school and like doing things at their own at the house. And I remember just being like, dang, you know, I wish I would have got started that early and, you know, just tried to imagine like where I might have been at. But it was just really incredible just because you don't see a lot of athletes that kind of have that level of commitment that early on their own. Like, yeah, there's some kids that, you know, they get forced to, you know, like their kids, like their parents drag them to practice, or, you know, especially like with like baseball or volleyball or softball or things like that, you know, their parents are like kind of forcing them to go do these lessons, try to be great, whatever it may be. But with her, she was the one pulling the strings and making it happen for herself. And so, especially, you know, as a female athlete, I just had never really seen very many girls take that much pride in their craft from such a young age. And so I kind of knew then, like I was like, oh, she's gonna have a real chance to do something special. And so I just kind of, to see it all pan out, you know, like when she got offered by Nebraska, or I don't know how it works exactly, but like once I knew that she was like going to Nebraska in like 8th grade, then it was kind of like, oh man, you know, I'm still searching for my first offer. And, you know, you got a younger sister in 8th grade that's already committed to, you know, basically the pinnacle of the sport, or the pinnacle of the school, like in her sport. And, you know, it's kind of one of those things where, you know, it's like you have that own self-motivation to better yourself, but then it's also a little bit of, you know, that internal sibling, you know, competition of, you know, you don't want to be shown up, but at the same time, you're like also kind of cheering for them because you are on the same team. There's also like you want to be the best on your team.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, it was always kind of funky just, you know, having her be younger than me, but also realizing those kind of lessons and necessities in order to be great younger than me.
Love that perspective. What about for you? What was it kind of like watching his athletic journey to where he got him today?
I had a really hard time understanding why they weren't giving him a chance. I think as a younger sibling, you always assume your siblings are the best one out there. And you're like, oh, starting. I mean, he's going crazy. And same thing even with my older sister when she was pursuing volleyball. And I couldn't understand it. I was like, he does way more than them. He's a better teammate. He actually celebrates everyone. He doesn't leave anybody out. I presume you would train with the kid that no one else wanted to train with because you figured he was alone. And like, yeah, it's like, you know, this hour I might not get a lot out of it, but I know he will. I presume you would probably do that. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, I never understood. I was like, when are they going to let the good guys win? And so I remember one time in particular, the head coach at the time, what was his name at North Star?
Katroki.
Yeah. We were joking because Josiah was due a score, and I went to hang out with Josiah and be around his older friends. I was like, this is so fun. So I sat with him at the scoreboard, and you were upset about wanting to score, like you didn't want to do it. And I tried to crack jokes with the head coach. I was like, I'm going to get him an in with the varsity head coach. I'm like, this is going to be great. I cracked a joke about him complaining, and it did not go over well. He goes, why the hell did you just say that? He was like, now he thinks I don't want to be here. Now he thinks I don't want to. I'm like, that was the varsity. I was like, oh. I didn't think about that. But it's because he cared. Like, he was cut short so many times, and so to see him have even just a small interaction, it's like the weight of doing little things, it was weighing on him. And it was like, that was something that I think I'm always going to remember, because it's like I didn't say anything to the head coach after that. Everything, I always said great things about Josiah. If anything, I was always doing too much. I'm like, hey, Josiah just got done running like 2 miles last night. Just thought you'd let you. And he did it backwards and all this other stupid stuff. But yeah, I also remember him coming home after club. And I was like, hey, like, where's everybody? Like, we'd be eating dinner. And I was like, yo, where's Josiah? And be like, oh, Mom's like, he's on a run. And I was like, Josiah runs? And you would come in and like, there'd be like sweat, like from your knees and everything. And you would like take off your beats. And then you wouldn't come eat. I remember you actually went into the garage and you grabbed a basketball and a tennis ball. And then when we would be watching TV and I would be sitting near the garage, it was at 5350. Mm-hmm. Or 5340, was it 40?
Yeah. You
could hear the pounding in the garage. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, like this is it. Like this is, and this might be TMI, but like didn't want a girlfriend. I could not understand that. Because even then, it wasn't that he couldn't appreciate a girlfriend. It's just that he was aware of like the time and commitment it takes to really pursue a woman. And it's like, I'm not going to give that to her right now. Like, I'm going to give it to my craft. And prior to that, I was like, man, like, Josiah he's not going to get any girls. Like, he's never going to get, and I was like, I just didn't understand. Like, my commitment just looked a lot different. And it's like he was making up for lost time, like what I now learn. And it was like, I mean, it's nuts. And so I remember when he did have this one girlfriend in high school, I was like, you need to realize how much time he's giving to you right now. Because it was just unprecedented. I was like, I never thought I'd see the day that he was actually, I didn't think he was going to have a girlfriend until college. So when he ended up having one his junior year, I was like, wow, like maybe he's kind of like senior year?
Yeah.
Oh, like he was actually kind of like, not that he was like going back on the grind, but he was like not drowning himself in basketball, for lack of better terms. It was like, oh, like, yeah. So there was like a couple memories I have of just the kind of commitment he's had, and to like actually see him here today and just to see him celebrated. I actually remember this too. We were in high school and everyone's like, wow, your brother's so good. And I used to say, I was sick of it. I was like, he's always been good. They never celebrated him. And it drove me crazy. I was like, your brother works so hard. I was like, he's been working hard. I was like, you guys just never celebrated him. And Mom was the same way. Mom would get so snappy. She'd be like, my son has always gave his best effort. But she had to watch herself because it's like that gets back to coach. But she just was like, you know, we've always been in each other's corner. Like, we want to see each other succeed, especially when you're doing all the right things.
You know, it's been well documented, Josiah, that you didn't want to come back because the hometown, it had to be the right fit for you. But then once you kind of settled on that decision and you've been able to share this year with her, and we saw you in the stands going crazy in volleyball games, and now we're seeing Becca in the stands supporting you. What has it been like to be able to share this year together? And you know, is one thing to ask you about coming back and sharing it with her before, but now that you have been able to go through it, what has it been like to kind of go through this year with him and be able to be each other's supporters throughout this entire season?
Yeah. I was just talking with BTN about it, how like my typical answer was usually like, oh, it's so cool. Someone that's been like inspiring me to like not take stuff for granted and like make hard decisions, and like discipline is something that you should be proud of. It's not something that's like, oh, I have to do this. It kind of changed, and it was like kind of like young me and like young you. It was like, wow, this is kind of like a full circle moment. It's like it's like we're back in high school, and it's like we're back to, I don't know, it's I cannot find the right word. And it's just like, wow, like this is actually kind of really cool. And it's just like, I'm just out here doing my thing with my family, and it's like, this guy could be doing tennis right now. I could be doing anything, and it's like, he's gonna support me with that. And so it's just been really cool. It's like, everyone sees like grown woman with muscles and hair done and like, oh, jersey, and everyone sees grown man that's like flexing his muscles and doing scary things. But like, I don't see that when I see him play. Like, I just see Joe, I see Josiah, I see gamer, I see funny guy, I see weird guy, I see passionate guy. I see the same kid that's always wanted these things for himself, has had the same friends since middle school, always cracked jokes, weird fashion. Like, that's the guy I see playing. And so it's like, it's just really cool that like, I imagine that's the way he sees me too. It's just like, yeah, people kind of put us on this pedestal, but it's like, in reality, it's just like, we're just each other's siblings. Like, I'm a sister, I'm a daughter. And so that's kind of like where my view of him has been like changing.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the biggest thing is just kind of like how rewarding it is to almost have like a second chance at like being an older brother again. Just because obviously, you know, when we were growing up, like I would go to like some of the games almost just because like my mom would make me, and it was like, you know, like, hey, Joe, like, you know, you haven't been to one, you need to go to one. I'm like, all right, you know. I kind of like drag myself along, but you know, after being away, like after leaving the house, when you kind of have that time apart, you really get to do a lot of just reflection on like what really matters, and just kind of all the mistakes and missed opportunities you had to really just share that time and, I mean, love with your family, and you just see just how like misconstrued your view of reality was, you know, because you just think like everything's always from like the perspective of you. You never really put yourself in their shoes. And, you know, I always prided myself on being like a really like intuitive person that can kind of, you know, see through, you know, read between the lines and all that stuff. But that was one area like that I just completely missed the mark on growing up, was just how big of a role I could have played in being like a better older brother to her, and my other younger sister and younger brother. I mean, and just being a younger brother as well, like how much more supportive I could have been. And so to be able to have this year to kind of almost make up for it a little bit and be that kind of supportive, you know, big brother, but also just, you know, be their biggest fan like I should have been from the beginning, is something that I'm really grateful for. And so that's for me, like, the most redeeming part of it is I just, because there's usually after you leave the house, like, there's not a lot of opportunities where you get to actually spend this much time around your siblings. You know, usually it's kind of that one shot, and you hope, you know, parents kind of hope that it turns out all right, but then it's kind of just, you know, maybe next time you visit town, you get to talk to them, and then you kind of repair things. And so this much time just being in the same area, being able to share these many experiences together and getting to cheer her on has been just incredible for, you know, patching up the soul a little bit.
I love that. And good advice for some young siblings that might be fighting growing up, right? Okay, ending on a kind of a fun note, real quick, and most likely, so, you know, you've seen the TikToks and the sibling version, most likely you guys pick who's the most likely, okay? Who was, I guess, the biggest troublemaker growing up?
Me.
Yeah, probably Becca.
Yeah, well, big time.
Who is the cleanest / organized, most organized?
Me.
Yeah.
I've changed a lot. I got it right.
You know, I'm still a little messy. I'm not dirty, but I'll be lying if I said I didn't let clothes hang around for a little bit.
Okay. Who's the most dramatic?
Ooh.
I've kind of mellowed out.
Yeah, I think it might be me, actually. I'll gas some stuff up a little bit for a little extra effect.
Oh, I love that.
It's usually for satire, though. He's not like actually. He's not actually
I'm not really,
pressed about it. And that's another thing that more people I wish would know about us. It's like our animations and like our passion. Like, yes, it is, but like there's just kind of like this fun part to go a little bit above and beyond.
Yeah.
Because you're aware of the pull it has on people. Because they're like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm having a great time, and I want you to as well."
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, everybody's there to, you know, just really be excited, you know, cheer on their favorite team, whatever it may be. And it's like, obviously, like, I'm excited too, but why not step it up a level, really just make the environment something more than it could be, you know?
I love that about both of you guys. I think that's why fans are drawn to you, absolutely. Who has a better taste in music?
Oh, man.
Mine's changed. It's like Noah Khan now and Nova Amor.
I kind of like everything.
Granola.
I don't know. I feel like I'm a little in tune with the waves.
The waves?
The waves, just the vibes. Like, I feel like I just did it.
No shot. You just said that.
I did say that.
Okay.
I can't help it.
Can we call this one a draw?
Yes.
It's a draw.
Who's the best student?
Me.
Yeah, I'll give it to him.
Okay. All right, and so who is the most competitive?
Ooh.
I will give this to Josiah because we did this UBT Olympic office games, shout out, and he won in Mario Kart. Like, I was literally just cruising, going straight, and like he was trying to do all like this other stuff, and I was literally just going straight, and he won. Like, I should have won for whatever reason. I didn't hit the turn right, and he won, and I was like, wow, like to see that same competitiveness in a basketball game to a video game, I was like, I'm gonna give it to Josiah.
I said, like, I've been trying to take a lot of strides in that area of controlling myself in competitions that aren't, you know, basketball. But at the end of the day, I can't help, like, I get a little fire going whenever I know I'm like competing head to head against someone, and
that's why I can't play Kahoot. I can't. I hate Kahoot.
Like, you know, I start to feel myself kind of dragging. You know, starting to get a little sad when I'm, you know, losing, and then once I feel myself pulling back, I just get all riled up, and I can't help it. But
All right, last thing. Who takes the longest getting ready?
He does. You care about your hair. I don't.
Whoa. Okay.
That's why do you think I straightened it, dude? There's like no maintenance.
All I did was condition it. All I did was condition my hair.
Process to your hair.
Yeah,
Like,
everybody does.
I do not, like, I'm not, like, committed. Like, the only thing I really committed to is, like, color coordinating. I'm not even doing that right now. You're like color coordinated.
One point on that note.
And I laid my
now that
clothes
we're
out the
talking
night
about
before.
Clothes, I would like to refresh your memory about back in high school.
Yeah.
I used to get harassed by her and her sister, or my sister. I still don't know how to refer to Hannah.
That's kind of her feeling.
Yeah, I don't know how to. Hannah's Becca's twin, for people that don't know.
You gotta clip that, please.
Yeah. but they used to harass me about my clothes because from a very young age, I realized how I could not give two hoots about what I look like or what I'm wearing as long as I was comfortable. And I didn't change from elementary school to high school. I mean, I eventually got figuring out wearing the same shoes and socks. But besides that, I'd wear sweats. I'd wear gym clothes every day. It did not matter to me. And they'd be like, oh, Joe, you have no style. You don't know how to dress. You just wear sweats every day. And I'm like, I'd tell them and be like, I just like being comfortable. You're like, yeah, that's what you say because you don't know how to dress. And guess who was on the sweats and shorts route 2 years later when I came back from college?
Hello.
Her and Hannah. They'd be dressed down, sweats, shorts, tennis shoes, didn't matter. And I'd be like, ain't this a mother? Y'all gonna come out here wearing the same stuff that I told you about. I tried to put them on game 2 years before that. And I mean, eventually at that point, I kind of just blocked them out. I'm like, all right, like they're just trying to get under my skin. But I was like, man, like it would be so, like, it was ridiculous. And
now
she
we were
goes,
really
You're
mean.
still bringing it up. They got under your skin.
No, yeah, obviously.
yeah. Because for me, I understood logically, like, I'm like, because they would be like, oh, you don't know how to dress. I'm like, I don't want to. But they were genuinely convinced, like, I didn't know how to dress myself.
The same reason he didn't have a girlfriend. I'm like, Josiah, if you fix your clothes, you might get a girlfriend. He's like, I don't want one. I'm like, you're just saying that because you can't get one.
And then it's kind of like beating your head against a wall. It's like no matter how much you say it,
Can't
it's
argue
like,
with the fool.
It's like trying to prove your sanity. Like as soon as someone calls you crazy, everything you say is just trying to prove you're not crazy.
Yeah, and then that makes you more crazy.
Yeah.
It was funny. We had this really nice, just thoughtful, kind response to it.
And then I had to stab, kill the nice moment.
Because it struck a nerve when she started talking about, oh, you know, I don't really care what I wear. I'm like, oh, I got some. I remember when you did. Okay.
Well, you guys, appreciate your time so much.
Yes.
You guys are fun. I could have asked you a million other questions, but appreciate you guys spending some time. I know Husker fans certainly have enjoyed seeing you guys both in the Husker uniform this season. And hey, we got much more to come with Josiah in the uniform, right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Down in the vault.
Josiah and Rebekah Allick, appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you.
Such a fun conversation with Rebekah and Josiah Allick. Man, I could have asked them a million more questions, but it's neat to see their relationship and certainly has been fun to follow both of them throughout this past season. This has been a Cornhusker conversation, or should I say Cornhuskers conversation, brought to you by Teammates Mentoring. Be there for a student in your local community by going to teammates.org. Thanks so much for listening, and make sure you subscribe and like wherever you listen to never miss an episode right here on the Huskers Radio Network podcast.